Hey guys, welcome to beautiful Heathrow Country Club in Lake Mary, Florida, my home course. And we're going to talk about 3 tips that are really going to help you to hit your driver much better. Now when you get up to those holes, they got a little bit of water on them, maybe you get those par 5s like this, it's just so much more enjoyable to smoke a driver right down the middle of the fairway and not even have to worry about being in the rough or out of bounds or that kind of thing. So we're going to do 3 things that you absolutely must do to hit your best drives. Let's go and get started. All right, so the first piece I want to talk about is what I call snap, don't slap. So nobody wants to slap at the ball. We don't want to lose that club head speed. And when we slap at the ball, basically what that means is I'm using my hands kind of back and forth this way. Oftentimes I'll cast a little bit and then the club head outraces my hands and I end up kind of slapping at the ball. The disadvantage of that is now my club face is very inconsistent. One time it's closed, one time it's open, and I'm also going to have a tough time getting speed from this. So let me go ahead and hit one. I'll talk a little bit about this slow motion video that's going to come up here in a second. So I'm going to try to slap at this ball, really cast it from the top. Yeah, and I hooked that ball 40 yards to the left, almost onto the road. Hopefully I didn't hit a car over there. But it's very difficult to be consistent when I'm doing that. There's no way I can hit a fairway when I'm swinging this way. What's happening is, if we look at our wrist and we kind of put them in front of us, if I bend my wrist to the right this way, this would be flexion with my left wrist. It's called extension with the right wrist. We don't need to know those terms. That would be to the right and then back to the left. A lot of times people think we need to get speed by doing this and by kind of pushing the club through to help to accelerate it. When I do that, that starts to flip the club, to slap the club, and it's going to outrace my hands. Anytime the club head gets in front of your hands before contact, you are dead in the water. It is going to be almost impossible to have control of that club face. When it outraces them, it becomes very, very unstable. That's a slap motion, and that's exactly what you're seeing here. Now, a snap motion is very different. I still want that club to release, so I want to have some lag. I want to get that club to whip on through. It's snapping, I'm getting that speed at the bottom, but it's when I'm doing that and how I'm doing that that's going to make a world of difference. So as I'm about halfway in my downswing, you'll notice that's what we call our maximum lag position. So in that max lag, now I've created this big angle with my hands and my arms. My body's going ahead and opening up, and as I continue down, now my club still has a pretty good size angle in it. If you look at the butt end of this club, if you imagine a laser beam kind of shooting out of there, it's not turned back up yet. My club isn't pointing back up toward my body. It's pointing out kind of down the fairway. Now from here, to get that club to really release, I want to snap the club head. That's when I'm going to start turning this club head back up, or this grip back up, to release the club head and to get a lot of speed from the club head there. So that's what we call the snap action. You can call it the release, you can call it whatever you want to. And the big key to really put this together that we talk about in the Top Speed Golf system is I want this to release about 45 degrees in front of me. So if I imagine a line going from my chest 45 degrees out in front, whenever that club gets fully released, now it's going to be pointing in that direction. So I'm still letting that club whip on through or snap through, but it's not a slap. I'm letting that happen in front of the golf ball, and now my club is just kind of trailing along behind. The golf ball is just getting in the way. I'm releasing out in front, and that impact is just happening. So let me go ahead and hit one here the correct way. We'll show you some in slow motion. I'll give you a couple tips on how to do this exactly. There we go, hit that one great, right down the middle of the fairway. I got that lag, and then I got that to release out in front. Now in the first one, we talked about how we didn't want to push with the hands or wrist, because now my club head outraces my hands and it gets really unstable. In this one, now I'm taking my hands here down at the ball. You'll notice my right wrist is angled back in what we call wrist extension, or my knuckles back to my elbow. I'm going to feel like my palm of my hand is still facing down to the ground. Now from here, I'm going to go ahead and feel like I do this motion. So if I'm casting a fishing pole, my thumb goes from up to really going down this way. That's what's called ulnar deviation, or just a casting or a flip type motion. I'm doing that way down here at the ball in that type of a direction. So my hand isn't going this way and cupping, it's going down, just like I'm doing this with a fishing pole. And now as I do that in front of the golf ball, that's going to release that club. Notice how here, both my wrists are nice and straight. There's no bend in those at all. If I was flipping, that would look like this as I'm coming through impact. And my wrist would be cupped here, and it would be bent forward like that with this other hand. That's going to lead to a lot of inconsistency if you're doing that. So let's pause just before impact. We got a nice angle. This wrist is flat. At this point, my thumb is pulled back toward my body. I've got all this lag, and then we're gonna pause in the straight line release in the top speed golf system, and we're gonna work on this thumb being down. So I went from the up to down. That's that whip action that's happening through there. That's that snap. And when I do this correctly, I feel like I'm just gonna take the bottom 2 inches of this grip with my bottom 2 fingers. That's where I'm gonna feel the pressure there. And I'm just gonna snap the shaft, snap that grip right off the club. That's gonna help with a ton of speed. So let's go ahead and pause and do that about 15, 20 times. Pausing here, and then boom, releasing that, pausing here, wrist nice and flat, wrist turned down. After we've done that about 20 times, let's get that same feeling in more of a full swing, just a practice swing there. So we're not gonna hit any balls yet, we're just gonna get used to that feeling, and then we can go ahead and take it on out to the driving range and start hitting some shots and then out onto the course. All right, so that's piece number 1, snap, don't slap. Piece number 2, it's the same old saying we've heard for a long time, but with a new twist, we're gonna tee it high and let it fly. Now the reason you wanna tee this ball high is a couple of things. So first off, if I have a great drive, what's happening are 2 things. Number 1, I'm gonna hit this ball a little bit higher on the club face. Now as I start to hit it a little higher on the club face, there's actually more loft on the top of your driver. Your driver isn't flat like a sheet of metal, it's actually rounded. If you were to take this and bring this out into a full circle, it actually makes about a 3-foot circle is how the face is curved. So it has a slight curve to it, meaning at the bottom of the driver, you're gonna have a lot less loft. This is an 8.5 degree driver. At the bottom, there's probably 5 or 6 degrees, 4 degrees, something like that. At the top, there's probably 12 or 13 degrees. So if I hit it at the top of the face, it's gonna launch higher. That's great for distance, that's what we really want. The second piece is, as I make contact higher, it actually has a gear effect, and the ball is stuck to the face and actually puts a little top spin, not really top spin, just less backspin, and it gets the ball to knuckle through the air. That's a real key for high, long drives. The higher I can hit it, hitting it on the top of the face, and the less spin I can have, also hitting on the top of the face, means the longer drives that I'm gonna have. That's the first piece. The second piece to this is I actually wanna be swinging up on the ball. Again, if I'm coming down on it, I'm kind of swiping across the ball, and now I'm getting all this backspin. The ball wants to shoot up, kind of float in the air, and then fall out of the sky. You don't get any kind of good distance. But if I can set this ball up where I'm actually swinging up on it, now again, it's gonna promote that higher launch, and it's gonna promote that lower spin. So the more I can hit up on this golf ball, the better I'm gonna be for creating as much distance as I can. Well, if I have the ball low on the ground, let's imagine this ball is barely teed up on the ground, just like this, it's teed up on the turf. If I swing up, if I try to hit up on this, now I'm gonna miss over top of the ball. No way to make it happen. Plus there's no way to hit it anywhere but the bottom of the face. So I want this ball teed up nice and high so that I can hit it on an ascending angle, on an upward angle, and still make contact with the top of the face. Now with your iron shots, it's gonna be on the ground. We're gonna have to hit down on it. If we had the luxury of teeing up iron shots, we'd do the same thing, but we don't. We have to hit it off the ground. That's why you hit down and take a divot with your irons. That's the easiest way to hit it off the ground, and that's why this is different with the driver. So a couple things that we wanna note here, and I'll show you some slow motion video with this also. I'm gonna play this up in my stance slightly. I got the ball teed up. For me, I like to have it at least a half a ball above the club or a little bit more. I'm gonna go ahead and tee this on about 3/4 of the golf ball sticking up above the crown. I'm gonna have that a little bit up in my stance. If I really wanna get a hold of one, get some extra distance, I'm gonna play it up here toward my front foot. Again, that's gonna help promote me hitting it on the upswing. And then number 3, I'm gonna visualize in my mind that I'm gonna go ahead and knock it off the top of the face. I don't wanna get anywhere near the bottom of the face or it's gonna kill my distance. So I put the ball up in my stance, I've got it teed up nice and high, and now I'm gonna feel like I'm swinging up on the ball and de-lofting the face so that I still get that high knuckler, almost a little bit of top spin on the ball is the way that you wanna think about this. So if I do those things, man, that's really gonna help me to increase my distance. That one felt great. Big high ball, knuckled through the wind, really nice shot. Now I saved the best for last. I know a lot of you guys out there are having those balls that slice. If you get into any kind of wind or you struggle at all with distance, that slice is absolutely just gonna eat up your distance really, really badly. So if I wanna hit it farther, I've gotta hit a little bit of a draw or at least dead straight shot if I wanna get the maximum distance on there. That's gonna get the least amount of spin. That's gonna help the ball to really launch pretty fast. So when I'm setting up to this golf ball, a lot of times what I have people visualize is that they're coming through and the face is really square. And they imagine they're just gonna kind of pull this club through square and the ball's gonna go right down the middle of the fairway. And when they have that visualization in their mind, because they struggle a little bit with a slice, the ball just tails off to the right and tends to slice. If you feel like you're gonna hit it square and 90% of the time it's either fading or slicing, this is really gonna help you. So I wanna imagine the club face, imagine that piece of metal is gonna wrap around the outside of the ball. So if I'm looking at this golf ball from my perspective, and I kind of put a line through the middle of the ball, that would be dead square. If I hit right on that line, that would be a square shot. Now when we do that, like we just talked about, we tend to slice. That means my club was actually a little bit on the inside of that line. What I want you to feel like you're doing is to get that club to wrap around to the outside of the golf ball and hit on the outside of that line. Now what that's doing is that's closing the face a little bit more. And when you first do this, you're gonna start to hit some shots to the left. That's okay, that just means you're doing a little bit too much, but that ball is gonna start left and it's gonna hook even a little bit more to the left, especially for you guys that are coming over the top. Now I'm getting to the outside of that ball and it's starting left, going even farther left. That's all right, let's start out on the range doing this, and I want you to hit those shots that do go to the left, and then gradually we're gonna start to come a little bit more from the inside. I'm gonna feel like if I'm at home plate and the second base and the baseball field is directly in front of me, I'm swinging more out toward first base or the visitor's dugout. And now I'm gonna be releasing that club, getting it to outside the ball. So what's gonna happen is the ball's gonna start a little bit straighter and then it's gonna draw. After you've gotten a few of these in where that ball actually starts to turn on over a decent amount, let's just tone that down a little bit. I'm gonna go ahead and hit one and really exaggerate though. I'm coming inside and out and I'm letting that face turn over. Now as I'm doing this, the feeling that I'm getting in my hands, if you go ahead and set this club up here, is that I'm taking this club and I'm twisting it just like I'm turning a clock. Like if you can imagine the butt end of the club is a clock face and I'm gonna turn that, that's rolling the club. You'll notice when I do that, my left wrist bows. That's what everybody wants at impact. That really helps, that's what the pros are doing. And my right wrist kind of turns knuckles back this way. That's what's gonna release that face as I'm doing that. So we can see that would really get that face to turn on over. I'm gonna exaggerate here, hopefully we can see this on camera, but I'm really gonna get this one to swing from right to left. There we go, so we saw that one started down the middle of the fairway, hooked over to the left, almost by the trees. I'm right on track. That's what I want to have happen at first if I'm struggling with that slice. Now the second piece to this, after you've hit about 15 or 20 balls doing that, and you've got the feel for that, I'm just going to tone down a little bit. Don't let that club release quite as much to the outside of the ball, and don't swing quite as far to the right, and now you're going to have that little baby draw that everybody wants to have to get the maximum distance. All right, guys. So take those 3 tips. Number 1, snap, don't slap. Number 2, tee it high. Get that ball to launch high with low spin. And number 3, get that club head to the outside of the ball to get